We are live, I think. Hi, guys. Welcome back to Solo Club. Welcome back to the Solo Club live stream. I haven't promoted this today on social media. So I normally go onto Twitter and X, whatever it's called, and onto Instagram and do a bit of, I'm on live later on type stuff. I haven't done that today just to see if it makes any difference to numbers. So far, it hasn't because people are coming on. So, hi guys. As always, I'm not looking at the comments or the chat at the moment because I'll dive into that in a bit. But please fill the chat with questions or anything you like. Basically, the first thing to say, I suppose, but start again. The first thing to say is thank you to everyone who checked in on my son last week, which sounds a bit weird, but if you were here last week, it will make sense. You'll know what I'm talking about. Basically, I had to rush off about halfway through the stream last week because I had a call from my girlfriend who said, Harrison, who's our 18-month-old son, has got a very, very high temperature, and you've got the car. Can you come back, please? And we'll go to the doctors. The good news is he's absolutely fine. It was literally just a high temperature and a fever of some kind, but he's 100% back to his normal smashing stuff up self. And yeah, it's any parents watching this will know what that's like. You just worry about everything. But I did have to cut the live stream short because I had the car and family comes first. I'd always rush off and do anything for him. So yeah, that. And thank you for checking in. That was very lovely of you. And today, I suppose kind of on that same note, I want to talk about burnout, which I wrote about in my Substack newsletter this morning, which you may have received and read by now. So I want to expand on that a little bit and just talk about it if you haven't read the Substack newsletter. Before I do that, quick bit of housekeeping or plugging, I suppose, is firstly the Substack newsletter. If you haven't subscribed to that yet, there's a link below in the description. It's just it's a kind of journal that I send out, a public journal every Friday where I talk about this business and what I'm going through in it, and good stuff, the bad stuff, all that kind of all that business. And it's completely free, and you can unsubscribe if you don't like it. That's no problem at all. But just double check down below. Sounds weird. And yeah, see what you think. The other thing is the free Discord server. The Solo Club Discord server is now completely free to join. Again, there's a link below. You can click on that, join. No questions asked, no money taken at all. And it's starting to build a nice little community of people who are either existing content creators or people who want to get into this game and do this kind of stuff either for a living or just for a hobby or whatever. And that's the whole point of it, really. The idea is to build a community of people who want to do this kind of stuff or who are just interested in it and want the inside track. So get involved in that if you can. Again, link below, all free, and you can leave if you don't enjoy it. Although I don't know why you would want to, because it's not unenjoyable. Anyway, rambling. So, as always, guys, as I say, fill the chat section with questions, either based on what I talk about now or stuff you've been wanting to ask me for a little while, and I'll come on to those in a moment or in a bit. Also, I have a new set, as you can see. Well, it's not a new set because most of this stuff has been here for quite a while. But this is, I think, possibly my new live streaming set. So originally I was over there where I had the kind of pink background and a few of the bits and pieces behind me for the Solo Club live streams. I just switched to this earlier this week, sorry, during the Apple live stream, which I'm going to come on to in a moment. And I just quite like it. I quite like sitting down, actually. I stand up most of the day because I tend to work standing up. I do my editing standing up. I do a lot of the filming standing up as well. And I just quite enjoy chilling out a bit, and it just relaxes me a bit. So hopefully you like this setup. It's not perfect. I do have a key light coming out of my head at the moment. Need to fix this, I think. But everything else, I think, including the lovely Apple TV 4K screensavers, I think is okay. Bit of a mess down here, but this is a working studio. I want you to see bits of it. So hope that's all good. Right, burnout. Okay, now this might be a bit more rambly than normal because I haven't got any notes here. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head pretty much. But yeah, I want to talk about burnout because I think I've burnt myself out this week, but equally, I don't know if it is burnout. And the reason I say that is because I'd like to know your experiences, if you're happy to share them, of your own burnout, if you've experienced it. Because I hear about it a lot in this industry. So as soon as you get into this industry, or you take an active interest in it and follow other creators and all that sort of business, you'll immediately or very quickly start to hear about their tales of being burnt out either now or in the past, or feeling like they're reaching burnout. And so I've heard it a lot from within this industry, but I've also heard it a lot from friends and from family members and, peers and people I've worked with, ex-colleagues and all that sort of stuff, and people in the media as well. You hear a lot about it in the media. The problem with this is that no one seems to be able to articulate what burnout is. It seems to be this kind of exhaustion. It's this complete exhaustion where you just can barely get out of bed. You don't feel like doing anything. It sounds very close to depression, that kind of stuff. Again, I've never had depression, so I can't relate to that whatsoever, and it sounds horrendous. But I'm not suggesting that these are two in the same. But for me, someone who doesn't think he's experienced those things before, it's very hard to relate to them. So everything I'm about to say about being burnt out um, should be taken with a pinch of salt, because I don't know if it is burnout. It may just me being really tired and having a bit of a bug, which I've picked up from my son, potentially. The more I think about it, the more I think that's what it is. But if I can explain what happened this week, then it might give you some context with this. So, um, on Monday, if you're an Apple person, if you follow Apple, if you've been following me because of Apple, you'll know very well that we had an event, a fairly surprise event on Monday for new Macs. And what was different about this one? Because normally these events happen at 6 o'clock UK time ish, 5 or 6 o'clock. And that's great because you get to cover them a decent hour, and you can go to bed at the normal time and all the rest of it. The difference with this one is that it was done at midnight in the UK, so it was 6 p.m. Pacific time, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's I think what it was. But that was midnight over here, and that's late by anyone's reckoning, unless you're a teenager. Or someone who works through the night. I'm not. And even though I'm a night owl, I was a little bit concerned about it because I knew that I had a very busy day on the Monday, and equally I knew that I had, the Tuesday would be very busy following up all the stuff that Apple launched on that evening. So I went into it with a bit of trepidation anyway. But what I thought I'd do is I thought, how can I remain awake and with it, and kind of just kind of energized enough to kind of focus on this event, make notes, and do whatever I need to do afterwards. And I thought, I know, I will do a live stream. I'll hold a live stream sat here 2 hours before the event on the Mark Ellis Reviews channel, and that will keep me energized, it will keep me awake, it will keep me going and ready to cover the event. So that's what I did, and it was a brilliant live stream. The Mark Ellis Reviews channel is a lot bigger than Solo Club, so naturally it's going to get more viewers for this sort of stuff because there's more people getting the notification when I go live, and it's just a bigger audience by a factor of a lot. It was a big audience. I think we maintained 240 people, 250 people ish for an hour and 47 minutes of me sitting here just talking about the Apple event and taking questions and stuff. And it was brilliant. Absolutely loved it. And it did work insofar as it kept me up, kept me energized, and kept me okay for this event. Because by the time it had finished, I only had 15-ish minutes to get ready for Tim Cook, basically. And I was ready. I did that. I went and sat down over there and what on my little beanbag that you can't see, and watched it on the big TV. Made loads of notes, and mercifully, this could have been a lot worse, but mercifully, it was only 30 minutes long, which a lot of people have had an issue with for various reasons. But as far as I was concerned, that was great because it was 30 minutes. I could very easily make those notes and come away with it with a rough plan of what I was doing. There's just a few things that I didn't take into account. The first thing was the live stream, because as great as that live stream was, as engaging as it was, and it was brilliant. Like these live streams, I love doing this sort of stuff. What I didn't really take into account is that you're performing basically. So when you're doing this, you're getting the real me, but you're still performing because there's an element of that for these kind of things. And that sort of performance, I don't know if this is an age thing or what, but that kind of performance is it gets you a bit later on, so that the energy that takes up presenting yourself and taking questions and doing everything, because also I don't have a team doing this. I have to do the live stream myself, so I have to do this bit, and I have to keep an eye on the comments and reply to people and click buttons and stuff. So there's a lot going on along with performing, and that does take it out of you. But like I say, it kind of takes it out of you later on, so it hits you like a train afterwards. So I didn't take that into account, how much energy I'd put into that live stream That was the first thing. The second thing was, and if you've ever covered an Apple event, if there's anyone watching now, watching this in the future, if you've ever covered an Apple event from the perspective of literally covering it, so you're watching the event, but you're having to write blog posts afterwards, or social media stuff, or YouTube videos, whatever, recapping it. You're watching it with a very different mindset. So you're watching it thinking, what's the narrative? What blog posts am I going to get out of this? What am I going to talk about? What's the main thing? What's the main thread running through this, or the key message that my audience will be interested in? And the more you do this, the more you do this stuff naturally. So you'll sit there taking notes and stuff, and you'll be thinking about these things anyway. Just for me, it now comes very naturally. But again, a bit like the performance element of doing live streams, the net effect of that from your energy levels is delayed. It hits you a bit later on because you're wired, you're just doing it, you're getting on with it. You've got coffee, you've got sugar and stuff that you're eating. Don't recommend that at all, but you have to do what you have to do sometimes. All this stuff's going on and you're just wired, basically. So I didn't take that into account. The other thing I didn't take into account is the fact that even though it was only 30 minutes long, that meant it finished at 12:30, just half past midnight. I then had to order the stuff to review. So I had to order an iMac, I had to order a MacBook Pro, and the iMac was an easy purchase because it was just the base model done, finished. The MacBook Pro wasn't an easy purchase because it was really expensive, but also because I had to spec it up specifically and mess around with it. And I was doing all this at like I say, half 12 at night, having done all that stuff, and also having worked a full day before all of this. So I'd spent an entire day and come off the back of September and October and August and July, all the months, but mainly September and October being very busy months for this industry. So there was that as well, which meant I didn't get back home until about 1:15 after packing up the studio and getting in the car and driving home. So I got home about 1:15 and went to bed about 15 minutes later. And again, because you're just wired and you've been consuming stuff on screens and what have you, it's the worst possible preparation for bed, doing a live stream, covering an Apple event and ordering loads of Apple gear. I can't think of a worse way to get ready for bed. So I couldn't sleep, basically. And I roughly got about 4 hours of sleep that night. The other thing I didn't properly account for was the fact that I'd need to get up the next day and make a video. And I didn't have long to do it because the video had to be published really by 2 o'clock that next afternoon. So Tuesday morning came and 5:30 my alarm went off after, like I say, about, if I'm being very generous, 4 hours of sleep. Alarm went off at 5:30, kind of blearily eyed, woke up, looked at my phone, which is the worst thing to do in the morning, but I always do it. One day I'll stop doing that. Got up, went downstairs, made a coffee, did some bits downstairs, came to the studio, shot the A-roll. Didn't have to do any B-roll, thankfully, but edited it. And it was a very intense morning. And again, anyone who does this will know what this is like. When you've got a very intense video, a very short lead time to make a video, the production process is incredibly intense. You cannot lift your head away from what you're doing, whether it be scripting or filming or editing or publishing. You're in it. You're really in it. And that didn't let up, like I say, until about 1:30, which was by the time I'd done everything and uploaded it and scheduled it for YouTube. And then for the rest of Tuesday, I had a few other bits to do and got home later that night. And I was very tired, obviously, that night, but I didn't feel ill. I just felt knackered, to be honest. Went to bed, woke up the next day on Wednesday and felt horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And I did something that I rarely do these days, which is I had a lie-in. I don't do it at the weekend. I definitely don't do it during the week. And it unnerves me to have a lie-in because I feel like I'm missing out on getting stuff done. So I laid in as long as my body said I should, which was quite a long time for me. Got out of bed and just felt horrendous still. Felt absolutely horrid. But still had loads of stuff to do because I had another video to make that day. I genuinely, in fact, if you're interested, it's the video that goes live this weekend. It's the Bose versus Bowers and Wilkins headphone comparison. That was the one that I shot on the Wednesday. And I did very briefly consider wearing sunglasses because I thought my eyes looked horrendous, which they possibly do. Possibly still do now, actually. Who knows? But anyway, felt horrendous for Wednesday, got an early night on Wednesday because of that, and then woke up on Thursday, which was yesterday, feeling even worse. And I had another lie-in to try and stave off this thing, had an absolute blistering headache, which was horrible because it's not very nice, but mainly because it was my girlfriend's birthday yesterday, and I'd spaced out my diary a bit to spend more time with her, and I just felt rotten. I didn't want to do anything. I did everything I said I'd do, bless her, and she kind of just said, "No, just stop, just chill out." But yeah, it was just I felt even worse yesterday, and then towards the end of yesterday, I started to feel better, and today, touch wood, I'm pretty much back to normal. I seem to have got over it after lots of ibuprofen and paracetamol, and like I say, lie-ins and doing less yesterday and what have you. Um, and it just made me think: have I burnt myself out? You know, is this me hitting the buffers? Or, as I mentioned at the start of this, is it just me, unfortunately, having that thing where I unwittingly combined a bug that I'd picked up from my son with just one particularly late night and very intense session of work? I genuinely don't know. That's why I'd love to know from you if you're willing to share what your own stories of burnout are. Let me know. Let us know in the chat. We'll talk about it. Um, and does it matter? I mean, does it matter if it was or wasn't burnout? Not really. I mean, well, it does matter, obviously. I mean, the definition of it doesn't really matter. The thing that does matter is that I was very, very tired to the point where I couldn't be bothered to do anything else. I didn't want to make videos yesterday. I didn't want to make videos the day before. I didn't want to do anything to do with the business. And that's not good. You shouldn't really ever get to that. Or if you do get to that stage, you should be able to get rid of it relatively quickly by looking after yourself. And I think I've done that. I think I've done that relatively well this week in terms of lying in, not getting up. In the past, I would have got up anyway, yesterday and the day before, and carried on, and probably really got myself ill. I didn't do that, thankfully. I listened to my body, and equally, like I say, yesterday I had a bit of a more of a slightly chilled out working day, and it seems to have worked. I think my body has kind of said, "Thank you. You've done what you needed to. Now you can crack on." But there's lots of lessons learned with this, really. And I think the one thing I will say is that I am fixing this. I started fixing this earlier this year. I really started fixing this back in September, which is when I brought in my general manager, who's Niall, who I don't know if he's on this yet. I've not checked the chat yet. He may or may not be, but trust me, he's doing so much work behind the scenes that you guys don't see. Not just for Solo Club, mainly for Market List Reviews, but he's getting involved in Solo Club as well. But he's doing so much stuff. You know, we had a catch up this morning, and the things that he's doing that I haven't really asked for, but relate to my strategy that I've explained to him and the things that I want to achieve with the business. It's inspiring, and and also it kind of reveals that you can let go of things, and you should let go of things and give those things to people who can do as good or not, if not better, normally. Certainly the case with Niall, job than yourself. Just give them away to those people. Let them do it. Let them free up your headspace. So since September, my input in the business has reduced, not massively, but it's starting to reduce. And my input on the business, which is the strategy side of it, is increasing. And that is exactly what I want to do. I want to be working on the business in terms of the future of it and where it needs to go. And the content, I need to be doing this. I love doing this, but I can only do this if I'm awake and not completely exhausted. If a content creator who's exhausted is no good on camera, no good behind the keyboard, no good behind a mic. I can't get into that position. And there's two answers with this. There's two solutions. One is to scale everything back and just do it myself and have a much smaller business. And there's nothing wrong with doing that at all. But that's not me. I'm more ambitious than that. The other option is to get people in to help, and I've done that. So I've got Niall doing everything he's doing, which is just amazing. I've got Max, who I haven't spoken about much on here, but Max works behind the scenes on the website. He writes on the website as well. If you go to marketlessreviews.com, you'll see Max on there as a writer, but he's doing a lot of SEO stuff for me. That both of those guys together are working together to do some very crucial work to the website to overcome some issues we've had with Google this year. And I have Callum, who I've mentioned before, who may even be on this live stream, who is working on the academy and working on Solo Club. He's got another team behind him who's been doing stuff as well. And I have other people. I have a VA, Luke and Sam from over there, the VA side of things. So I've got and I've got Jen, my girlfriend, who's my studio manager, who does things you definitely don't see, but they make all the difference in terms of travel arrangements, invoicing, all the stuff that I just can't put my head into, basically. So I am making changes. Absolutely. And I'm hoping that as the months go on, I think as we get into the first quarter of 2024, which we're not far off now, I think this will only continue in terms of me being able to pull back a bit, focus on content creation and the strategy of the business and growing it properly. And hopefully avoiding these instances, because this isn't the only time that Apple is going to do this. And it may not be Apple next time. It could be Samsung. It could be anyone. Something could happen where I need to be somewhere. This has happened a lot this year where I've had to go away somewhere. And it's been a very long period of time. The next thing for this, actually, the next big test for this is January in Vegas. So I'm going to CES in Vegas, which is the Consumer Electronics Show, the biggest one in the world. I've never been before. I've been to Vegas before, but I've never been to CES. And I'm going. Patrick Rambles is going, who's a fellow YouTuber, a few others. And it's going to be, from what I've heard, it's going to be crazy. And it's also there's a lot of horrible jet lag involved if you fly from here to Vegas. I've experienced that myself, and a lot of work involved as well. So that's going to be my next test, I think, for this. But I'm putting the things in place that are going to make it not easy, but easier, if that makes sense. So again, going back to the whole burnout thing, I don't know if I've experienced burnout this week, but it feels like I might have done, possibly. I don't know. I'd love to know what you think. But I just wanted to talk about that because it's, again, this is a bit like the Substack newsletter. This is a bit of a journal for me. It's an outlet for me to talk about these things. Anyway, let me have a swig of water and say hello to everyone. This is when I excuse me, when I open up the comments. I open up the chat window and see what you've been talking about behind my back. Joking, obviously. Lots of familiar faces and some new faces and some amazing usernames, including Fishfinger Reaper. No idea what that means. Could mean all sorts of things, and I love it. It's also got an amazing avatar as well. Interesting. Hi, Gavin. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Tobias. Callum is on the line. Not on the line. This isn't a call, is it? Callum's here. Lovely. Michael's here from Michael's Tech Talk. Alan. Everyone's here. Martin. Yeah, great stuff. Hit me with some questions. Well, as I said last week, I think hit me with your rhythm stick. I don't know why I said that. It's because I do these on Fridays. It's been a long week. My voice is going now as well. Excuse me. Right, let's have a look. So Fishfinger Reaper enjoyed the live stream. I need to put him or her on here because that's just such a brilliant name. I assume you're referring to the Mark Ellis Reviews one. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to do more of them. I just need to work out what they're going to be for, because they need to be anchored by something. I mean, technically, I could do one every week or every day if I wanted to, but people are going to get very bored of that very quickly. So I've only done 2 on Mark Ellis Review. So I've done the first one was the iPhone 15 event reaction, and the second one was this one from the start of the week with the Scary Fast event from Apple. I think I'll keep doing that. I'll keep doing the Apple event themed ones, but I think I need to do something else. I need to do maybe once a month. I mean, again, I'm open to ideas on how I do this, but I think that the size of the audience on Mark Ellis Reviews demands that I do those a little bit more regularly, because the engagement and the everything about them is just amazing. They perform so well, and it's such a good way to connect with people who follow you on YouTube. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I will do more, I promise. Justin, burnout for me is not wanting to do the work because you have done too much on something within a set time frame. That absolutely nails, I think, what I've experienced this week, Justin. I think that has much more succinctly than me explained what I've experienced. So, yeah, not wanting to do the work. That's exactly what I felt. Like I mentioned a moment ago, I think yesterday and the day before, I didn't want to do this job at all. I had no interest in it whatsoever. Couldn't even think of anything worse than doing it. Yesterday morning, in particular, because I was feeling so unwell, I was struggling to focus on the laptop, and I was writing something. The only thing that I wrote yesterday that I enjoyed writing was the Substack newsletter, because it was a bit of a journal type thing. I was talking about that feeling, a feeling of possibly burnout. But everything else, I had no interest. I had no interest in coming to the studio or anything like that at all. And that's not great, is it? That's not a good thing. And like you say, it's when you've done too much on or I guess too much of one thing, which for me is content creation, within a set time frame. And it was a very tight time frame. You know, I had the live stream, I had the covering the event, I had a very brief period of sleep, broken sleep. I daren't look at my sleep stats for that night. It must have been horrendous. And then a very intense morning / early afternoon of video production. Yeah, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong in doing that occasionally, but occasionally, the other thing is with this, you do ask yourself, is it worth it? And that video that I made, so the video that I had to really intensely work on the next day, on the Tuesday, which was the reaction video to the Apple event, mercifully has performed very well for basically reaction videos, event reaction videos. In my experience, do okay. They have these kind of massive spikes in views to begin with. So you publish them, and if you get the timing right, so if you do it within a few hours of the event finishing, or perhaps a day later, the interest is still there with your audience. So if they see it, they'll click on it very quickly. So you get this massive spike. It becomes a 1 out of 10 in YouTube Studio quite quickly, but then it has a very quick tail off. So it will last like that for 2 or 3 hours, then it will very sharply fall off. This one hasn't. This one, it has fallen off, obviously, but it's had it's 3 days now, 3 days old, and it's had 22,000 views. And in the top 10 list, it's a 5 out of 10 now. But it's very close, actually. That top 5 is quite hotly contested in terms of views. So it's done pretty well. I'm happy with that being. It was worth it for me. 22,000 views. How many subs did it bring in? It probably brought none in. Let's have a look. Bear with me. Why is this not working? Okay, let's look at the subs. So, wow, 136 new subscribers. That's not bad. If you're interested, 76 quid in ad revenue. Won't make me a millionaire, but yeah, 2,000 hours of watch time and 136 new subs. That's amazing, actually. And it's got fairly decent retention. Really good retention, actually. So it was worth it in that respect, and it's still bringing in views every day. So, as a piece of work that I've created and a product of that day, then it was worth it. If it had done 300 views and died a death, it wasn't worth it. But it was. It's brought in new subs and all the rest of it. So, but Justin, that's a great explanation of what burnout is. I hope you haven't experienced it yourself, obviously, but that is great. Luke, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you very much. You're all lovely people. You're all wishing everyone a happy weekend. I don't really get any trolls on here, which is nice. I didn't notice them anyway. I didn't really get any trolls on the Mark Ellis Reviews live stream either. We had a couple when we did the one after the iPhone event with me, Patrick, and Alex and Rob. But yeah, you're all just lovely people, aren't you? It gives me faith again in the online people. Online people. You're not online. When I say online people, I mean the trolls, basically, people who seem to live their lives online and hide behind keyboards. It does give me faith, these kind of things, that they are such a small minority, because the rest of you are just lovely. So, Paul Rankin has joined. He's got a great YouTube channel. Lover of Tech, Ben, is here. Hi, Ben. I think you joined last week. Lover of Tech, Ben, has got his own YouTube channel. Please go and check him out. Ben, I think you joined last week just as I left to take my son to the doctors. So I don't know if you missed it, Ben, but he's fine. It was just a high temperature. Ben, I'm sure Ben won't mind me saying this, but Ben knows exactly what it's like to really work very intensely on a piece of content and have the payoff for it, actually. So, Ben, I'm sure you don't mind me mentioning this, but we met probably about a month or so ago now, at an event in London for a brand, and Ben turned up and just looked at me and said, "Don't even ask me about what's happened over the last 24 hours." And he'd been working basically very, very hard on a camera comparison video, and bless him, just had enough and got it done, and had problems with the edit and all the normal stuff that we go through that you don't see before the video hits the airwaves. But he'd got it finished, and he was just ready for bed, I think. But the trooper that he is, came out and spent some time at this brand event and was his normal happy, personable self somehow. I don't know how he does it. I struggle to do that. But anyway, long story short, that video went live, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, and don't be shy in coming forward about this, but it went off the charts in terms of views. So this was a comparison. I'm going to get this wrong now. It's the iPhone 15. Tell me, Ben, put in the comments what it was. That edit took that edit took my soul away. That is again, far more succinctly than me, that is what these edits sometimes do. They do literally sap away your soul. They reach into you and rip you out, and that's what he looked and felt like that night. But this video has gone off the charts. I think, is it done 350 plus thousand views or something, Ben? Which I don't see those sort of views, if at all, but certainly for months and months on certain videos. It takes a long time for my videos to get there. But Ben had that in about 3 days. So that time was very well spent, Ben, as you know. But he didn't know that. He didn't know the video was going to do that. I had no idea this video was going to do okay from Monday. We put all this effort into these videos because we love doing it, and it's our job. Obviously, we're running businesses that we want to be profitable, but it's always a bit of a punt. You never know if that's going to happen or not. So it's I guess most jobs are like this. If you're a salesperson and you're kind of really pitching for a new client and you're doing it again, every week you're kind of chasing them. You never know. You're driving. So I used to do this. Partly the reason I made that kind of comparison, that I'd drive for hours to places and do 1 hour long meetings and drive back and get home late and stuff, and never know if we'd get the deal. Sometimes you would, sometimes you wouldn't, depending on your hit rate. It's exactly the same with videos and video production. We just don't know how these things are going to turn out. Is your time worth it? No idea. It is great, and you have to take the rough with the smooth. For every 350k video, you're going to get a 2,000 view video, whatever. So you do have to manage that kind of expectation. But yeah, editing taking away your soul, that isn't dramatic. That's not hyperbole. I know exactly what Ben means by that. This was it. So it was the Pixel 8 Pro. It was Pixel time, wasn't it? Pixel 8 Pro versus the iPhone 15 Pro Max versus the S23 Ultra. And I think it's an epically long movie. All movie length, I think, Ben, wasn't it? It was a really long video, which has worked brilliantly. So go and watch it, guys. It's brilliant. Honestly, it shows what you can get out of this. Chris. At work. Oh, you're watching me while at work. Hope the boss isn't looking over your shoulder, Chris. So you're lurking. That's fine. But just checking in to make sure you're okay. Take it easy. We've all overworked ourselves. That's very kind of you, Chris. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. Funny enough, I don't think my mum watches these, thankfully, but I had a text message from my mum this morning because she said, Mark, I've just received your Substack newsletter. Because mum, bless her, she watches and reads everything I put out there. Biggest fan, obviously. She said, I've just received your Substack newsletter, and I'm really concerned. Are you okay? I had to say, look, I'm actually okay, mum. I feel fine this morning, to be honest. And there's a little bit of embellishment going on here because this is content. The whole point of what we do is to get clicks and views. I know trolls don't like this, but it's true. The way that we make money and remain in business is by garnering clicks and views. And so there's a little bit of me embellishing things with this and saying I'm burnt out and all that stuff. But that's the way that you get people to read and watch your stuff. So I did have to say to mum, don't worry, I'm okay. I don't think I have burnt out. I'm going to be absolutely fine. Bless her. So I'm fine though, Chris. Thank you. There you go. Michael, this is turning into the Ben show, which is I'm fine with. Ben's camera comparisons are the best in the game. They are, and trust me, those camera comparisons, what I do compared to Ben's nothing in the same league. The camera comparisons in my videos take up about 3 minutes, 4 minutes max. But I really hate doing them because they're a real pain to edit. You have to get the right images in place and make sure you're not labeling one image from one camera incorrectly or whatever. And it's just a horrendous edit. And to do one that lasts, I think, an hour or over an hour is amazing. So yeah, I agree. Running on burnout, vibes, and determination. I definitely wasn't running on vibes on Monday night. I was running on, I'm not sure what I was running on. Sugar and coffee, which is terrible. Maybe that's why I felt so bad. I've thought about this. Maybe I'm drinking too much coffee. I've got a very fancy coffee machine now downstairs that was very kindly lent to me by Gadget. It's this thing called the Gadget Academia, which is made for a fairly wealthy family, I think. Not some bloke in a little studio on his own, who makes a couple of cups of coffee a day. But it's so easy. You just press a button and choose things, and out comes the coffee. Bean to cup, all that sort of stuff. And I am trying to regulate how much coffee I'm having, but it's quite difficult because it's really nice and really easy. And sugar, I'm quite bad with. But I'm trying to get better. But anyway, maybe that's part of the reason I didn't feel that good this week. Maybe I've just put too much stuff into my body. I don't know. Caffeine, like Michael says, is not great. Right, any more questions, guys? Let's go for it. Let's have a look. Alan, this reminds me of working at BlackBerry. Wow, you used to work at BlackBerry, Alan. That's a pretty cool thing to tell the grandkids who won't understand what a BlackBerry is at all. But you're based in Singapore, but meetings on London and Toronto times. Wow, 24-hour job. That must have been horrendous, Alan. Much worse than what I was going through. That's the thing, really. I think what I experienced earlier this week was one day. It was one evening. But yeah, doing that regularly, ugh, horrendous. That's a horrible time difference as well, isn't it? I can't work out what it is, but it sounds horrible anyway. It sounds absolutely horrendous. Perhaps for burnout, you should look for a Red Bull sponsorship. Well, Rob, I mean, I'm here. If anyone, Christian, if you want to get in touch, I'm not a massive Red Bull fan, to be honest, but I will be if you fancy. Yeah, give me paddock tickets in Vegas in a couple of weeks. Well, just go for it. I'm here. I'll happily have a Red Bull on the desk. Why not? I'll become a Max fan. No, I won't. No, I definitely won't. But no, I won't. I definitely won't. Justin, do you YouTubers plan on collabing at some point? Yeah, we do, and yeah, Ben knows this. We need to do something together. Yeah, we're gonna. Ben did come on the 8 or 16 podcast with me and Rob. I've just noticed Rob is here as well. Quite nice, Rob, and he was brilliant. He was one of our favourite guests ever. We had a really good chat about all sorts of things, but we do need to do something, and I think just getting this period out the way. It's just crazy at the moment. Maybe December. Maybe we do something then. I'd love to do something with Ben and other people on here. There's lots of people on here I'd love to collaborate with. Fishfinger Reaper. Still love this name. What are you using for edits? Did you shift to DaVinci? I didn't shift to DaVinci. I thought about it. I was very close to doing it. I'm still not completely against the idea, actually, but I decided to stick with Final Cut Pro. I'm still a Final Cut Pro user. I think going back to what I was saying earlier about having a small team now that is enabling me to do some other stuff that is, taking my foot off the gas, not completely, but being able to do other things. One of those things might be exploring different ways of editing videos or using different tools. Because what was interesting during Apple's event in the week, earlier in the week, is that Final Cut Pro had 1 or 2 mentions, if that, whereas DaVinci Resolve and even Adobe Premiere featured quite heavily throughout that thing. And at the end of it, they revealed that the whole event had been shot on the iPhone and edited on the Mac, but it didn't say what it was edited with. And you'd think if it was Final Cut Pro, they might have said edited on the Mac on Final Cut Pro, possibly. But I just got the impression. Well, it was worrying, to be honest. As a Final Cut Pro user, you're thinking, well, how much do Apple care about Final Cut Pro if all the people in their own videos are clearly using something else, usually DaVinci? So I'm thinking about it. I do like the idea of switching to DaVinci. I don't like the idea of learning something from scratch again because I've got such a tight production schedule and kind of process that I go through that just works with Final Cut Pro. I know it like the back. I can almost do them blindfolded, these edits. And for all its faults, Final Cut Pro does work. We've had some very rough updates this year. There's been 2 or 3 updates that were terrible, caused some real issues with crashing and stuff. But that seems, touch wood, to have been fixed in the last update. So fingers crossed. Michael, we'll have you on the podcast, definitely. Rob, do you get any difference in revenue between someone watching the ads and a YouTube premium viewer? I don't know. That premium views you do see them separately in YouTube Studio, and I think there is something different revenue-wise. I don't know what it is. Maybe someone who knows better than me, who's another YouTuber in the chat, can reveal what that is. But there is something different between the two. I'm just not sure what it is. I don't get many premium viewers. I mean, I can't remember what the stat is, but it would take me too long to find it now. But I think it's always a very small percentage of people using YouTube Premium. But yeah. Paul, what are your thoughts on daily uploading? If you've got time for it, then why not, I suppose. I've published a lot of videos this year, so there's been certain weeks, and we've got a week coming up not next week, but the week after, where there's about 4 videos in 1 week, and I've had quite a few of those recently, and they're consecutive, so they're, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. Which and again, the effort that goes into making those videos is very intense. And it's quite dangerous actually, because and I think this is what the whole Linus Tech Tips thing, where they kind of had to pull back and reevaluate their business. It's dangerous to the point where you can overlook things and rush stuff and make mistakes. I don't want to get into that position. I don't think we've done that yet, but I'm very conscious of that. I think it depends what type of channel. I know yours is a tech channel, Paul, but yeah, what type of content you're making. Is it vlog style? I mean, vlog style stuff, Casey Neistat, he did, was it 800 or something daily vlogs in consecutively, and it nearly killed him, I think. I don't know. It depends what you're doing. I think what matters is that it's the quality of what you're putting out, not the visual quality or anything like that. It's the quality of the content. If the content is good, really good, and it's speaking to the right audience, and the litmus test for me is do I watch one of my videos while I've edited it and I'm just double checking it? If I watch it and think this is rubbish, and this has happened, trust me, very rarely, thankfully, but if I watch it and think, yeah, that I've enjoyed that, this is a good video, then that is the litmus test. Because if I like it, other people hopefully will like it as well. So I think I wouldn't let the frequency or the the kind of cadence of your uploading impact quality. That's the only thing I'd say. Tectonic, have you watched the short behind the scenes video by Apple about filming on the iPhone? I did. Did watch it. Yeah, it's only about 2 minutes long, wasn't it? But someone pointed out that it was a very good PR exercise for a very specific audience, which is the people who want to use the iPhone as a pro camera, which you clearly can. I mean, obviously, it was all shot in Apple Log or whatever it's called, and edited from the looks of it in DaVinci Resolve. And they were using very expensive lighting, and more importantly, people who knew what they were doing with the lighting. They didn't go into the sound. Obviously, it wasn't. The sound isn't from the iPhone, obviously. I think MKBHD spotted that they were wearing lav mics or hidden lav mics. That's what he was thinking with the audio. But yeah, the video quality, amazing. There was something different about it. I remember watching it thinking this looks a bit different, but I didn't think anything more of it, and just cracked on with what I was doing. But yeah, it was a lovely little Easter egg at the end. Although, as Rob, my podcast co-host, did point out, they're not the first to do this. Nothing did the exact same thing for the Nothing 2 launch, was it? They shot the entire event on Nothing phones. So it's not new. It's not a brand new thing, which is always the case with Apple, but very impressive. And again, it just shows what you can do with phones. You don't need fancy cameras. You can get by with one of them, as long as you've got decent lighting and decent audio, which I think is what the Apple event kind of revealed. If you look at those, if you haven't seen that behind the scenes video yet, which Tectonic is talking about, go and check it out. It's really interesting. But the biggest takeaway for me was the sheer amount of lighting, top down lights, fill lights, and big key lights and all sorts. That's why it looked so good. They also had the iPhone on a 30 grand robotic kind of stabilization arm, but we'll let that pass. But what they weren't doing, interestingly, I thought they were going to have some massive cinema lens attached to it. Nope, they were just using the standard lens. From the looks of it, the standard lenses on the iPhone. Very impressive. Richard says, I hate the ads. That's why I pay for YouTube Premium. You also get YouTube Music included. Yeah, I think it's quite a good package, actually. I thought about subscribing a little while ago. I didn't do it for whatever reason, but yeah, I think YouTube Premium does make sense for a lot of people. I just don't see a lot of people in my analytics that are using it. Ben, about daily uploads, definitely against daily uploads, regardless of how large you are on YouTube. Fair enough. There you go. Like I say, I think anything that sacrifices quality just to get stuff out. I think quantity, I've not seen any difference. I've gone from making lots of videos to not making as many videos, and the kind of the average views that the channel gets over the course of a month doesn't really change, weirdly, because I think you kind of spread out the views across more videos, if that makes sense. How scripted are your videos, full or outline? So what I do, my process is I write a blog post first, which goes on to marketersreviews.com and gets imported into Medium as well. I then take that blog post and basically bullet point out all of the sections and the paragraphs. That's it. Stick that into Notion. I then write the only thing that is always scripted is the hook. So the bit at the start when I say something to try and literally get you hooked, that's always scripted. The intro after that, which delves a little bit more into what I'm about to talk about, that is normally scripted a little bit more as well. But the rest of it really is just that broken up blog post just to get my mind thinking. So sometimes I will read verbatim from it. So I'll have it in front of me on an iPad. I'll read the exact paragraph that I wrote on the blog. Sometimes I don't. I mean, the most obvious thing for that is specs. If I'm talking about specs, I have to do that because I need to get them right. If it's just an opinion on something, I very quickly read what I wrote on the blog post, and it's in my head then. And particularly if I wrote the blog post earlier that day or just a day or so ago, it's fresh in my mind anyway. So I can kind of riff on that and just do that. So the hook I think is very important to script. I think you should always script the hook because it's the first chance you've got to get someone literally hooked in. But the rest of it depends on how comfortable you are just standing there talking and waffling on, because you can edit out, you can cut out all the crap, all the stuff where you just waffle on and go down literary cul-de-sacs, and you can sculpt it into something properly engaging in the edit. So that's what I tend to do. Hopefully it works. It doesn't always work, but hopefully it works. Paul says you've got that many brands to get through. And my only way to do it right now is to, this is about the daily uploads. My only way to do it right now is to daily it. Otherwise, I won't be done by Christmas. I'm taking Saturdays off, only up to now, but fear that may change. Oh, yeah, don't burn yourself out, Paul, given what I've been talking about today. I mean, if you've committed to this stuff with brands, and I've got this challenge over the next few weeks, I've had it for most of this year, actually, on and off. I'll have several brand funded videos, whether they be sponsored or there's one this weekend that's going live, which is quite a good example of this, where Kef, who are an audio brand in the UK, they sent me a lovely pair of desktop speakers, shelf speakers, whatever you want to call them, which you can probably see there. They sent me them about 2 or 3 months ago, and I said, look, I'll feature them on the channel. I'm not sure when. It wasn't sponsored, but it was gifted. So they sent me these lovely speakers, and it's got to the stage where I need to feature them. So I've built them into a video that I had planned about the Apple TV, which is going live on Sunday. But I've had to make it, but it's come at a very busy time. If I had the ultimate freedom with this, I'd have left this video until December, because it's not. I want to publish this video about the Apple TV to see how that content performs, because I've done nothing on the Apple TV for ages, but equally it's not urgent. There's no Apple TV update or anything to talk about. But the challenge with this one, which is what Paul is experiencing, I'm assuming, is that I've promised a brand I would feature their stuff on the channel. So because they were kind enough to send me it, and it's very good stuff. So yeah, I know how you feel, Paul, but just be careful. Don't try and do too much, because I think the quality naturally will suffer. And I've experienced this. I've looked back on certain videos that I've put out there and thought, I could have done better with that. So that's the only thing I'd say. But I know it's not as simple as that, trust me. Tobias, question regarding your Academy cohort in 2024. So Tobias is referring to the Creator Academy, which is going live in January. Again, a link below. Although if you join the Discord server, you'll find that quite quickly in terms of what it's all about. But there is a link below in terms of what to expect from the Creator Academy that I'm running. So over how many weeks / months will the cohort be paced out? It's going to be, so it starts in January, as I say. We're not sure on the exact date yet. We're waiting to confirm that fairly soon. But every 2 weeks you'll get, I can't remember how many modules there are. There's quite a few, but you'll get a new module every 2 weeks, which is pre-recorded by me. It's over the course of a couple of months, basically. But because it's self-paced, it can be as long as you want or as short as you want. But you'll also get the Q&As with me each month as well. So we sit face to face with multiple people like this, and we go through the modules that you've just had. So yeah, it's paced out, but it's self-paced. That's the key thing, really, Tobias. It's up to you how quickly or how long you take to do it. That was the key thing I think I learned from the Medium Academy that I did. I needed to give people a bit more time, and this is the best way to do it and to scale the Academy itself. Richard, you've been using Hootsuite for scheduling social media posts, but from January they are putting my price up from 284 quid a year to over 1,179 quid a year. That's a massive increase. Why has it gone up so much? I used Hootsuite years ago. I've not used Hootsuite for quite a while, but I did, like I say, a number of years ago. I used it for my previous business. It was quite expensive back then. I can't remember how much, but that's a, 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 you can tell I'm lost for words. I don't understand how they can increase it that much. Are you getting anything more for that? Um, Can you suggest any of the packages? I can't suggest anything in specifically, Richard. Maybe people in the chat who are using this stuff can do it rather than me. What I have found in the past, whenever I've looked into this, but when I was looking for an alternative to Hootsuite, was that they're all expensive because they're all paying the social media platforms for tokens and access to the APIs and stuff like that. So they have to pass that on to something, which is the customer normally. So they are quite these social media scheduling tools. As soon as you start adding in more than one social account, they do get quite expensive. But I'm afraid I don't use anything myself for this. So yeah, I'll let someone else get involved. But I can't believe that's such a ridiculous price hike. Wolfgang, copyright. Can I use, say, 10 seconds from the Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio without permission in a video where I talk about Shakespeare? What about 3 seconds or stills? I don't want to get too involved in this because I don't know the full rules with it, but I always err on the side of caution with this because I don't know the exact, do's and don'ts in every single country. So I always kind of assume that I can't use stuff that is copyrighted. So, or if I do, I must what's the word? Make note of the fact where it's come from. There's another phrase for that. Someone please help me. Attribute it. I must attribute it if I do that. So if I ever use footage, for instance, from an Apple event, I always put at the bottom left-hand corner, courtesy of Apple. Other people don't do that at all, but I just it's just peace of mind for me, basically. Equally, if I've ever featured, this might help you, Wolfgang. If I've ever featured footage from a TV show or a movie or something on a TV or on a MacBook Pro or something, a couple of times I've done that. I've just put at the bottom left-hand corner, I've put the whatever it is. So if it was Severance, I've put Severance Apple TV, whatever. The publisher. Generally speaking, I think you're okay. You might get a copyright strike potentially, particularly if you're using audio. So if you're using this normally happens with music. So if you use copyrighted music, YouTube will very quickly notice that and strike or just demonetize your video completely, which isn't the end of the world unless you need that money from that video. It won't. Your channel won't disappear because of it. Although you get a certain number of strikes and then you're out on YouTube. I think it's 3. I get very worried about this, and again, people in the chat get involved if you've got other opinions on this. I just always err on the side of caution with it. I think 10 seconds. If you need to do it, I would just make sure you've got a little attribution at the bottom saying what the movie is, who published it, if it's Paramount or whatever, just to kind of give yourself some kind of something to lean on if there were any problems, which there probably won't be, to be fair. Chris, feels to me that YouTube have ramped up the ads recently. I love YouTube Premium, but it's just a bit above my price range at the minute. I know what you mean. I've noticed that a little bit with certain YouTube videos that I've watched recently, where there's a lot of ad breaks, loads of them, but it's only on certain videos. It's normally on what feel like big videos from big creators. I'd love to know if you guys are getting more from me. I mean, I'm not a massive creator, so I'm not your MKBHDs of the world. So I'd love to know if it's the same of channels of my size. But that's interesting that you've noticed that, Chris, because like I said, I've noticed something similar, I think. Loads of questions today, guys. Thank you for getting involved. It's good numbers. So Alan says YouTube has 2.7 billion users and 80 million premium subscribers, according to Google search. Interesting. It's such a huge user base, isn't it? If you've ever got that question about whether or not it's worth becoming a YouTube creator, yes, it is, because look at the size of the audience. If you can get a 0.0007% share of that, you're going to be happy. Someone's going to work out what that number is, aren't they, and say it's not worth it. But yeah, you know what I mean. Alan, don't be sorry for being late joining at all. You can rewatch this. It's always worth saying if you really want, you wouldn't want to rewatch it if you've watched it already. But if you do come in late, you can But what happens with live streams, if you weren't aware, is that once you finish them, for some reason, it takes YouTube about 24 hours to publish them as regular videos. I don't know why, but it takes quite a while. But they do eventually just become regular YouTube videos, so you can go onto the channel and see that live replay. I think also the live stream replays have the comments in, have the chat in there as well, so you can see what people were chatting about. You can't get involved in it, obviously, because it was in the past. But if you need to, you can rewatch it. Justin, what is your opinion on the smartphone market? Do you think it's becoming boring? It's one of the reasons I like companies like Nothing. Is it boring? It's a bit boring. Yeah. Yeah, it is boring, isn't it? Let's be honest. We need some more interesting stuff. It's why I like talking about things like the Pixel Fold and the Fold 5 and the Flip and all that stuff, because they're a bit more interesting. But the iPhone, as great as this iPhone 15 Pro Max, it's a contender for the phone of the year in my book. But it's still a bit boring. It's just an iPhone, isn't it? They take amazing photos. You can ring people on them. You can do everything on them, basically. Yeah, I know what you mean, Justin. They are a bit boring. But I still like making videos about them, obviously. Am I getting your messages? You sent a few. It depends how you. Is this on here? I'm getting some of them here. Apologies if I've missed them. Oh yeah, okay. There are a few I've missed. Apologies. Am I planning on doing anything this weekend? I'm working tomorrow morning, so I've got to do some stuff very early tomorrow morning. Again, thinking about the burnout stuff and try not to do too much. I'm not going to do too much tomorrow. But yeah, we're going to go and see some fireworks, I think, unless the weather's terrible, which it might be because it's the UK. Haven't spoken about the weather yet today, which is unusual. What else are we doing this weekend? That's it, I think. There's something else happening. We have a shared diary, me and my girlfriend. So, and the diary is very much controlled by her, apart from the work stuff, obviously. And I just turn up to stuff. I just get told to where to go because I'm fairly useless when it comes to remembering things in my personal life. And she's amazing. She gets me to appear at things rather than working too late and all the rest of it. But yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing one week to the next. I'm quite happy with that, to be honest. Any questions I've missed out? Because I'm going to have to shoot off fairly soon, guys. We're getting towards the end. This has been really good in terms of questions. It's been great. I'm just going back. Rob says it was the Nothing Phone 1. So it was the Nothing Phone 1, the event that they used to shoot on with Nothing phones. You know what I mean? But I thought it was the Nothing Phone 2 for some reason. Interesting. That was weird. I disappeared, didn't I? Am I here? Am I here again, guys? I vanished from the stream then. That was the first time StreamYard has let me down. Am I back? Am I back? Or have I just disappeared completely? Someone say that I'm back, please. I can see you all. I think you're all still here. I'm not sure what happened then. Am I here? I'm back. Good, good. The aliens have taken up. They haven't. What was in place of me then? Did it just go blank? I'm back. That's right. I don't know what happened then. Sorry. That's the first time. Again, touch wood. StreamYard has been amazing in terms of being very, very solid. Yeah, don't know what happened then. Anyway, I'm back, although I am going to have to go in a minute because we are getting towards the end of this. It all went blue for a few seconds. Interesting. Just background. No idea what that happened. Anyway, what have I lost? Let's get, where are we? 3 minutes left really with this live stream. Blue tiles on the screen. How strange. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. Right, I've got 3 minutes. Here we go. Question. Not a question. We know it's your job, but I wanted to say I really, really appreciate your work, especially here on Solo Club. Look after yourself. That's really nice, Wolfgang. Thank you. That's lovely thing to say. Yeah, it makes it worth it because you do again. People who are on here who are YouTubers themselves will know that we do get some stick, and it's not much. It's from a much smaller percentage of people, but they those comments do annoy you sometimes. They do make you think, why am I bothering? But then you have to remind yourself that most people out there are lovely, and it's when you get comments like this, it makes it worth it. So thank you, Wolfgang. I'm glad, and I will keep sharing stuff on Solo Club. It's the whole point of this thing existing. And like I mentioned at the start of this, if you haven't joined the Solo Club Discord server, yeah, it's completely free. The link's below, and it's not about me really. It's about that community, and you'll find other people in there who are talking amongst themselves. I'm trying to do with that as I did with the Marcos Reviews Discord server, which has grown into this lovely community that I very rarely get involved in. I've kind of left it to grow and kind of blossom, and it's done brilliantly. So I want the same thing with Solo Club. I do dip in now and again, but I want it to be a community. So get involved if you can. What was the name of your coffee machine model? So it's a Gadgia, which is spelled Gaggia. And as Rob, my podcast co-host, pointed out, if you put that into iOS, into your iPhone, it always auto corrects it as Haggis, which is quite funny. But it is Gadgia. Lovely Italian brand, as you can probably guess, and it's called the Academia, and it's about 1,700 quid. It's a lot of money for a coffee machine, but it's amazing. Richard, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Right, let's get a couple more questions if you've got any, and then I'm going to shoot off for the weekend, basically. It can be coffee related. It can be anything. Ask me anything. I always regret saying that. Thanks, Alan. Have a great weekend yourself, mate. I think we'll finish it there. What's this? And don't forget the hand pink waving. Not sure what that means, Martin, but I like it. Alan, did you say 700 or 70? 1,700, 1,700 pounds, UK pounds, for a coffee machine. I mean, if you Google it, if you Google Gadget Academia, you'll see what it's all about. And I think it's worth that. But like I say, it's not really just for one bloke. You'd buy it and put it into an office possibly, or you'd put it into like I say, a nice home with fair few people living in it, not just one person. But guys, I'm going to sign off now because on the theme of not burning myself out, it's probably best that I do get home and spend some time with the family tonight. And yeah, thank you for getting involved. Like I've always said, check out the Substack newsletter down below. Jump onto the Discord server, meet some people, like-minded content creators and people who want to do this sort of stuff. And I'll be back next week. I think it is the same time next week. I'm fairly sure. I think I will keep this Friday time. It seems to work very well. And yeah, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you at the same time next week. Cheers, guys. Thank you.